Thanks for tuning in to the Pokémon Scramble. Today, we will have 2 elimination matches and 2 Winners Semifinal matches. In Losers Round 5, the first match will feature 2 competitors who have been in the losers bracket since the very first round of battle, FadedOasis and Ariachiba. And in the other match, a team looking to prove that vanilla is the finest of the flavors fights against a team with a legendary dog and a paradox Pokémon. Pyunidae battles Diaz. And in the Winners Semifinal matches, a team led by a fossil that has never lost more than a single Pokémon in this tournament faces off against a team that will punish you in the name of the moon. A battle of besties, Jen versus Flarolyn. In the other Winners Semifinal match, Pokémon God faces a fiery phoenix. Kallisti takes on Heller. We're starting off with the losers bracket side, where elimination is on the line. FadedOasis versus Ariachiba. Both of these teams have been fully evolved for at least a round, so there's nothing new on either side, except Ariachiba has male Pyroar for the first time since round 1, where she lost. Could this be the kiss of death for her team? Will she actually need to bring Farigiraf into battle? For the first time since round 1, Faded's team must face its fire weakness once again. 4 of Faded's Pokémon are all weak to fire, and on the other side of the field are Ho-Oh and Pyroar. Arcanine and Mantine will be incredibly important in dealing with those two, or Faded may just get burned to a crisp, as he did to his previous opponent. Both of these teams lost their first battles, and have been in the losers bracket ever since, so one of them will continue on with the perfect comeback story, and the other will be eliminated. Let's see which is which in FadedOasis versus Ariachiba. Ariachiba sends out Machamp, and Faded sends out Forretress. Forretress going to tank a Stone Edge and add some spikes to the playing field. That will hurt Pokemon when they swap in. Knockoff takes away Forretress's leftovers, removing its healing as it adds another layer of spikes. Dynamic Punch will confuse the Forretress, and it hurts itself in confusion, wasting its turn. Klefki gonna swap in and get Dynamic Punched as well. That will confuse every time it hits. Klefki hurts itself in its confusion, and an Earthquake will take out the living keychain. Dynamic Punch will kill Beartic from full. That is going very well for Ariachiba thus far. Machamp with a Stone Edge kills Mantine. Machamp doing its best work of the tournament so far. An Earthquake will reduce Forretress to the red as a third layer of spikes is brought in. Ariachiba hasn't swapped a single time, so those spikes haven't come into play. Toxic Poison continues to tick away at Machamp. Hisuian Arcanine brings Machamp down to the red, but a Dynamic Punch will kill it. Toxic Poison will finish off Machamp, but Faded down to a single Pokemon has only killed a single of Ariachiba's Pokemon. Male Pyroar comes in. Bramblegast goes Ghost type to remove the fire weakness, but a Dark Pulse takes advantage of its Ghost Terastallization, and Ariachiba removes the specter of male Pyroar's defeat from her team and kills FadedOasis using only 2 Pokemon. I didn't even clock that Machamp was going to be powerful in this matchup, but it was enough to take out 5 Pokemon on its own. Ariachiba's team continues to put out solid performances from different Pokemon every match. She still has not brought Farigiraf out as it waits in the shadows for the appropriate time to strike, perhaps trying to deny other teams information about its capabilities. I thought the fire was going to be the weakness for Faded's team, but not a single fire attack was used in this matchup, and Faded was still defeated 6-1. I think Faded's team did a great job with the tools it's had, beating some quality opponents, especially in the most recent rounds. Unfortunately, his team will be retired, and Ariachiba will move on to the next round. Our other match of Losers Round 5 will be Diaz versus Pyunidae. In Diaz's last round, he relied on the legendary fire type of Entei to absolutely scorch his opponent. However, Pyunidae has some solid answers to a fire Pokemon in Ceruledge and Emboar. But Diaz's Paradox Pokemon Sandy Shocks can bring ground attacks that will be super effective against both those Pokemon as well as Galarian Weezing. Both of these teams have a Guts user, a half-poison Pokemon, and a half-ghost Pokemon. But Pyunidae's team does not have a legendary or a Paradox Pokemon, or any other Pokemon with a special lineage. With Faded's team now eliminated, can the tournament's final team that is fully vanilla continue on in the tournament, or will Diaz's legend endure? Pyunidae starts off with Hariyama, Diaz with Dragalge. Pyun going to swap to Ceruledge, which resists a Sludge Bomb. Diaz going to switch over to Sandy Shocks, getting a Photosynthesis boost from its item, and a Bitter Blade critically hits, taking Sandy Shocks down to the red. A Thunderbolt does less than half to Ceruledge, and it heals a little bit back from Bitter Blade, killing the Paradox Pokemon. Dragalge also tanks a Bitter Blade, but this is much better for it. Draco Meteor going to bring Ceruledge down to the yellow, but reduce Dragalge's special attack in half. Bitter Blade takes another chunk off of Dragalge, healing Ceruledge. Draco Meteor can't kill from there because it keeps reducing Dragalge's special attack. Hariyama going to come out on Pyun's side as another Draco Meteor lands, but Dragalge's starting to get very weak from all of these Draco Meteors. Hariyama burns itself to activate Guts, and it also bulks up. Annihilape comes in on the other side of the field, and it is also going to attend the Church of Swole. Thunder Punch hits Annihilape but doesn't have any rider effects. Galarian Weezing comes out as Annihilape continues to bulk up. Ice Punch, despite that extra attack, only does a quarter to Galarian Weezing. It's very bulky. Strange Steam going to bring it down to the red, so Diaz swaps over to Dragalge. Dragalge, neutral from a Fairy-type attack thanks to half Poison, half Dragon, sees the Ceruledge come in, scatters some Toxic Spikes on the battlefield. Ironhead hits Dragalge as a Draco Meteor will finish off Ceruledge. 1-1 goes the score of this battle. Galarian Weezing is going to clear out those Toxic Spikes by virtue of being a grounded Poison type. Draco Meteor, Weezing is immune to that thanks to being part Fairy. Strange Steam, a critical hit, brings Dragalge down to 1% and it's going to flip turn to get out of the way. Entei comes in for the first time. Sacred Fire, a critical hit, only does 44%. Galarian Weezing, very physically defensive. Toxic applied to Entei, that's going to continue to ramp in damage. Another Sacred Fire is met with a Sludge Wave, and these two continue to duke it out. Galarian Weezing leaves the battlefield, bringing Hariyama in. Hariyama now in the red as Entei continues to tick down from Toxic Poison. The longer that's out, the more damage it deals. Sacred Fire will finish off the Weezing as Toxic Poison takes over a quarter of Entei's health. Actually, exactly a quarter. Poison Jab is enough to kill the Entei as Scolipede faster than the legendary dog. Poison Jab also faster than the Throw, as Throw bulks up as well. A lot of bulking up in this battle as Scolipede skips Leg Day and just goes for Swords Dance, boosting its attack by 2 stages. Poison Jab going to Poison Throw, that's very dangerous because Throw has Guts and will knock off the Scolipede, killing it. Emboar comes in on Pyun's side of the field as Diaz sacrifices Dragalge. Flare Blitz going to deal minimal damage to Emboar in recoil because it was only on 1%. Annihilate going to use its Z-move. Never ending nightmare. But an Earthquake is going to kill the Annihilate because Emboar's strong enough to survive. Pachirisu nuzzles the Emboar, paralyzing it, and survives a Drain Punch thanks to its Focus Sash, but Emboar now in the green. Pachirisu uses Endeavor, which reduces Emboar to its own hit points, so being at 1%, now Emboar down as well, but Pachirisu dead. Pyunidae going to swap to Trevenant. The Ghost type not helping as Knockoff super effective. Throw has swapped over to being Dark into Terrestrialization. Emboar at 1% and paralyzed. Throw will kill that, but the poison continues to tick away, bringing Throw into the red. It's Guts versus Guts. Who is faster? Hariyama goes first with a Drain Punch, Terrestrialized to Fighting type, and it will be enough to eke out a victory against Diaz. Pyunidae will move on, continues to be an entirely vanilla team, taking down legends and paradox Pokemon and whatever is thrown in their way. With the exception of the Draco Meteor into the Fairy type, which I would suggest was an attempt at a prediction rather than a ridiculous move choice, Diaz fought a fine battle here. It came down to a speed contest between Hariyama and Throw, and Pyunidae was on the better end of that. But Diaz very much could have taken this battle had a couple of things just gone his way. Diaz had some quality victories in his run, but was ultimately laid low by the best vanilla team in the tournament. Now that Pyunidae's team is fully evolved, who knows what their upper limits are. Congratulations to Pyunidae for moving on. Our next two matches will decide which two teams move on to Winners Finals, and which two teams will go down into the losers bracket to face Ariachiba and Pyunidae. The first of these battles pits Jen against Flarolyn. Jen's team has evolved Beartic. While it is another ice type that her team has already, it has a much stronger stat increase than Rowlet does into its next form. So Jen has opted for the immediate infusion of power to stay in the winner's bracket. However, her team is defined more by Dracovish, the fossil Pokemon that has led her team to dominant victories, losing no more than a single Pokemon thus far in the tournament. Flarolyn's best Pokemon, conversely, is Ursaluna Blood Moon, and I don't think it can withstand a Vicious Rend even though it is incredibly bulky. As a ground type, the super effective damage may prevent Ursaluna from ever getting a chance to retaliate. So what are Flarolyn's options? I would surmise that the water types, Kingler and Lumineon, need to be up front, because Jen's team tends to lead with Dracovish, and if it gets going, you're not going to be able to swap something in and take multiple hits because of how fast it is. Even Lumineon and Kingler may not be able to withstand more than one, maybe two hits, so they're going to need to be swapped in safely and not take a free hit. So it might be important for Flarolyn to lead one of those water types. Guzzlord is also very bulky, and as part dragon type, may also be able to withstand more than a single Vicious Rend. But what can Guzzlord do to kill the Dracovish fast enough? Perhaps Knock Off can remove the Choice Scarf and slow it down so that something else like Scolipede can get in an attack and kill the Dracovish. What will happen when these two close friends do battle? Let's find out as Jen faces Flarolyn. Flarolyn does indeed start with Lumineon, but Jen with a curveball bringing Wormadam trash. Stealth Rock's applied and Lumineon uses Alluring Voice, perhaps hoping that Dracovish swaps in. Is resisted by Lumineon as it swaps to Scald, perhaps hoping to burn Wormadam trash. A critical hit brings it down to the yellow as Lumineon brought down to the yellow by Gyro Ball. Dracovish is swapped in and Flarolyn predicts it with that Alluring Voice. Dracovish under half health swaps away, another Alluring Voice hits Annihilate. Lumineon doing work here. Scald hits Annihilate, burning the Annihilate, so bulking up is still going to be less than its normal base damage thanks to that burn. Flarolyn gets Lumineon out after a job well done. Annihilate bulks up, its attack about back to normal, its defense boosted 2 times, taunting the Kingler. Kingler going to respond with a Crab Hammer. Kingler don't need no setup. Annihilate with a Drain Punch takes 30% and heals itself, but a Crab Hammer critically hits and kills Annihilate. Flarolyn has the advantage thus far. Lovely Kiss misses, and Kingler throws a stomping tantrum about not getting a kiss goodnight. Lovely Kiss does land this time and puts it to sleep. Kingler takes a nap as Ice Beam lands. Kingler continues to snooze, and an Ice Beam will kill the Kingler. Mabostiff comes out, the Intimidate not going to be important against the special attacker. Focus Blast misses again! Takes advantage of that missed Focus Blast. That move has not landed thus far in the tournament. Fire Fang takes half off of Beartic. Beartic reduces Mabostiff to the red, and Priority Aqua Jet will kill. Blood Moon Ursaluna in against Beartic. Super effective ice damage. And Ursaluna uses Earth Power instead of Blood Moon. Not sure why, but an Icicle Crash going to remove Flarolyn's most effective Pokemon. Or perhaps the theoretically most effective as Luminion comes in and takes another kill. Dracovish uses Crunch to avoid the resisted damage from Vicious Rend, and Guzzlord will resist Crunch as well, being half Dark type. Knockoff takes the Dracovish down, and Flarolyn brings things back to even as Guzzlord gets a beast boost. Wormadam going to protect to scout out what Flarolyn is doing. Guzzlord healing with leftovers. Knockoff going to kill Wormadam Trash. Guzzlord with another beast boost. Jen down to Rowlet that has never seen the battlefield thus far. Confuse Ray going to hope that Guzzlord hits itself. It will not. Knockoff will bring Rowlet down to 1% thanks to the Focus Sash. Leaf Storm hits the Guzzlord, reducing Rowlet's special attack. Guzzlord does hit itself in confusion this time, giving Rowlet another opportunity, but it's still not enough to kill, and Knockoff will finish off Rowlet and take Jen down to the loser's bracket. Flarolyn moves on to Winners Finals on the back of a strong performance by Luminion again, and perhaps Guzzlord's breakout performance. Flarolyn's strategy was about what she needed, throwing out alluring voices while Wormadam Trash was out in the hopes that Dracovish would swap in. It did eventually happen, and Dracovish, brought down to half, forced to use a dark move because of the type matchup into water, meant that Flarolyn could bring back the Guzzlord, which would resist Crunch, and finish off Jen's biggest threat. In the last two matches, Flarolyn has used Luminion incredibly well and Ursaluna Blood Moon incredibly poorly, but it has worked out as Luminion has carried the team to victory, and Guzzlord stepped in today. Jen's team, for the first time losing more than a single Pokemon, loses all her Pokemon. She will go down into the losers bracket, the only team left in the tournament with evolutionary potential left. Rowlet still has 2 evolutionary forms, so if Jen can string together some more victories in the losers bracket, she still has some power to get out of this team. Flarolyn will await the winner of our next matchup in Winners Finals. And that matchup will pit Kallisti against Heller. Kallisti's final evolution, Grimmsnarl, is now available to the team. This Dark Fairy is an interesting type combination, and it still has Prankster to go quickly with its Thunder Waves, but now sports solid physical offense as well. With that legendary Arceus and the Mega Evolving Sceptile, Kallisti's team full of potent threats while not sacrificing tankiness or utility could be one of the most balanced teams at this point. Heller's team has strong utility and healing, but doesn't really have much in the way of bulk. Several glass cannons sit alongside Ho-Oh, Heller's pièce de résistance. And aside from Sceptile, which will add the Dragon type if it Mega Evolves, Ho-Oh doesn't have any particularly favorable matches this time. If Heller uses Regenerator on Ho-Oh well, and spreads Paralysis around with Galvantula, he might be able to get things set up for his team to sweep. But if it comes down to who can stand on the battlefield and take a hit, Kallisti may just have the advantage. Let's see, which of these teams will face Flarolyn in Winners Finals? Kallisti or Heller? Ho-Oh on the battlefield for Heller, Arceus for Kallisti, each of them starting with their legends. Arceus bulks up, a very common practice in today's episode. Sacred Fire will burn the Arceus. Ho-Oh is taunted, but I don't think it intends on using anything but Sacred Fire right now. Arceus down to the yellow. Extreme speed, the damage cut by the burn. Brave Bird brings Arceus to the red. Burn slowly ticks away it as well. Shadow Claw will hurt the Ho-Oh, but Arceus defeated first. Heller takes the advantage, still with his legend active. Haxorus comes in against Ho-Oh. It will use and Ho-Oh now defeated, both the legends off the battlefield. Dazzling Gleam will hit Grimmsnarl super effectively, but Grimmsnarl still pretty tanky. Galvantula comes in on a Spirit Break. It won't be enough to kill, but it does bring its special attack down. Thunder Wave going to paralyze the Grimmsnarl as Grimmsnarl kills Galvantula. 2-1 in favor of Kallisti. Komala in, Grimmsnarl slowed thanks to the paralysis, so a return will hit first and kill Grimmsnarl. Things back to even as Haxorus comes onto the battlefield. Komala survives an outrage, landing a return. Heller takes the lead with a very badly damaged Komala. Sceptile uses its Mega Evolution and kills Komala. Alolan Marowak takes a Rock Slide super effectively, but it flinches. Dragon Pulse will kill the Alolan Marowak. Kallisti has the advantage now. Another Dragon Pulse takes down Tatsugiri. Kallisti putting things into overdrive. Leaf Storm hits Mismagius into the red. Dazzling Gleam, not enough to kill Mega Sceptile. Swaps over to Wigglytuff, but it's a nightmare for Heller as Wigglytuff is immune. Alluring Voice will be enough to finish the Mismagius. Kallisti takes advantage of the flinch on the Alolan Marowak and does not look back from there. A brilliant swap on the never-ending Nightmare as Wigglytuff was immune to it and able to finish off Heller. Kallisti with another strong victory, still 3 Pokemon up at the end. Heller definitely had some chances there, but that Rock Slide flinch meant that Marowak just could not get a move in, and that was enough for Kallisti to sit in the driver's seat and take things home. Heller, suffering his first loss, will go down into the losers bracket to face Ariachiba, and Kallisti will move on to Winners Finals to battle Flarolyn. So your winners today, Ariachiba, Pyunidae, Flarolyn, and Kallisti. On the next episode of the Pokémon Scramble, Ho-Ohs will clash as Heller battles Ariachiba, and Pyunidae will attempt to add a fossil Pokémon to the types of things that their team doesn't need and can defeat as they face Jen and her Dracovish. The winners of those battles will immediately clash with one another to determine who can make it to the losers' finals. After that, all that will remain are winners' finals, losers' finals, and the grand finals. With only 6 teams remaining, every match is critical. The Pokémon Scramble's penultimate battles next time.